Hey, what's going on, guys? So, last week we got a new trailer for the upcoming James Gunn Superman movie, and I actually like this trailer quite a bit more than the one that we got back in December. And I don't know what it is, really. It didn't show or tell us any more than what we already knew based on the previous trailer and what we've heard about the story and characters and interviews with James Gunn and the rest of the cast. But I was really digging the trailer here, and for better or worse, you could feel more of James Gunn's fingerprints on this than the first trailer let on. Again, for better or worse. I still feel kind of weird that we had to go back to the John Williams theme for Superman on this. I just feel like if Batman and Spider-Man are allowed to have different cinematic themes for their respective franchises, why is Superman the exception? It just feels like it locks him into the year 1978 and he can't really escape it. But that gets into a whole issue that I have with Superman just in general. I feel like that first Christopher Reeve movie, which I do like, by the way, I feel like I have to preface that every time I talk about it. I do like that movie, but it does have a sort of stranglehold over the legacy of the character that's kind of frustrating, and in a way that you don't really see with any other characters. For the time being, I'll say. I do think the MCU and its consequences are going to stick with a lot of Marvel characters like herpes over the next couple of years, but I digress. I've grown to really like the color palette. It really threw me off in the first trailer, but the more footage I see, the more I kind of dig it. The way this movie looks, it feels like I'm looking at like a live-action cartoon from the 80s or something. And I like it the more I see it, especially with the superhero costumes and how vibrant they are. I will say, I get why the Maxwell Lord superhero costumes look the way they do, where they're all corporate and clean. And from what little we've seen of Ultraman and the Engineer, and how, they sort of look uniform and militaristic, I think I see what James Gunn is going for with that kind of visual metaphor with superheroes as corporate agents and soldiers. And I think that kind of commentary would be really fitting given the current climate of superheroes on film. I just wish that if that were the case, that Superman's costume was a bit more DIY and simplistic in contrast. But again, that's just speculation until the movie comes out. Speaking of the Engineer, though, based on the trailer and what the actress Maria Gabriela de Ferreira said about the character, where, the Engineer is working for Lex because she's the result of a freak accident, and only Lex Luthor can make her human again. I mean, look, I get that James Gunn was setting up a movie based on The Authority, which I don't even think is happening anymore, but if that's the case, I kind of wish they just used Metallo. Because that is not Angie Spica's character from The Authority, at all. Because in The Authority comics, she is the sweetheart team rookie who idolizes superheroes and intentionally turned herself into a cyborg because she wanted to be a superhero. So here, just making her a Lex goon who's blackmailed into committing war crimes and literally kicking puppies to cure her domo arigato, Mr. Roboto, kind of just, I don't know, Metallo's right there. And he is an actual Superman villain. I don't know, I feel like, I don't know, that just kind of annoys me. But that's a pretty consistent James Gunn-ism that's vexed me over the past couple of years. The MCU Guardians of the Galaxy are basically OCs wearing the skin of their comic book counterparts. Same with Vigilante from Peacemaker, and that's even more egregious because Vigilante is a legacy mantle. There's been 50 of them. So if he wanted to make essentially Vigilante pool, he easily could have just made a new character and said that the new guy is just some loser riding the coattails of the Vigilantes who came before. That would have been pretty simple. He didn't have to make Adrian Chase the way he made him in Peacemaker. But again, that's just what James Gunn does. LOL, look, it's Taserface. Isn't he stupid? Anyway, he's dead now.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, that's unfortunate.
But yeah, qualms with some minor James Gunn isms aside, I actually think this looks pretty good. The action looks like whatever the fuck he was on when he directed Guardians 3, and that movie has zero bad action sequences. I also like how it looks like this movie is gonna be a Who Watches the Watchmen kind of a story, and I'm a sucker for those kinds of superhero stories, especially when they're done with Superman. I really like how it looks like the inciting incident of the movie is Superman overstepping his bounds and stopping a war. And despite his heart being in the right place, and despite actually having saved lives, which is objectively a good thing, what are the consequences that follow? You know, congratulations, you stopped a war, but the geopolitical tensions that led up to that war are still present. So, did your intervention make those tensions worse? Are these nations smaller proxies for larger nuclear-armed geopolitical superpowers? What are the consequences of interjecting in that kind of conflict? You know, these are all valid questions, and there's no real right or wrong answer, which I think is fascinating personally, and that's why I love those kinds of stories. I will say, I've seen some people compare the plot beats advertised in this movie to BVS, saying that James Gunn is essentially just doing the same thing but with a brighter color palette. And I don't think that's entirely a disingenuous observation. It does look strikingly similar. That said, even if he is hitting the same plot points, I think the story overall is going to be a little different, just in that, unlike the Snyderverse, here it looks like superheroes are already an established institution, so this movie isn't going to be about the world's reconciliation with superheroes. And on top of that, David Cornsweet's Superman is just characterized way differently than Henry Cavill's. You know, Cavill's Superman was very stoic and consequence-oriented. Like, you could tell that the weight of the world was always on his shoulders because he recognized the impact of his actions and was constantly walking on eggshells. But David's Superman seems to be fearless to a fault, indignant, and action-oriented, consequences be damned. And I think both characterizations work just fine, you know? I think there's more than enough material out there to validate both interpretations, because like many other DC characters, and I've talked about this many times before in a lot of videos, particularly Batman videos, this just boils down to a your mileage may vary kind of a thing. But I am genuinely liking what I'm seeing from this movie so far, and I thought the trailer was really good. But what about you? What are your thoughts on the trailer? Are you excited for James Gunn's Superman? Or are you a Zack Snyder fan who is disappointed that the Snyderverse is no longer continuing and is now making it everyone else's problem? Let me know down below in the comment section. Also, if you like this video, hit the like button, share, support the channel. And if you want to see more content like this, all you gotta do is subscribe. I'm the Mystical Green Beanie. Thank you for watching, and as always, until next time, take care, guys. Peace.